Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. Now, if you're like me and are a fan of Flying Pig games, and in particular the game 65, Squad Level Combat in the Jungles of Vietnam, you might have all of the stuff that I have here, the base game, expansions, the Alone in the Jungle is inside the main box here. And I also have the update kit. That's what this guy right here is. So if you have all of this stuff, there's some good news. There is a new addition to the family that's coming up. It's on Kickstarter pretty soon here. And that is our 65 strategy guide for the second edition, but it covers things that are in the first edition as well. The good news is there are things in here that cover all of this stuff. So we're going to take a look here and check out just what exactly is in the 65 strategy guide from Flying Pig Games. Let's dig right in. So if we take a look here at the table of contents, you can see you've got your historical background, gameplay, then the components, and then basically how things work in the game. Not specifically the rules, but it gives you a good idea of how the game works. So it goes through all of the steps of things like movement and combat, and then your sequence of play, and then you get into there's actually a really good example right here. Whoops. Scenario 4 playthrough example. It's deep and it's like 20 pages long, as you can probably see here. And then you get into the scenario strategy guide, starting with the base game, and they touch on all of the various scenarios here. Then through Drawn Swords, through the USMC Anzac strategy guide, the Kickin' Ass strategy guide, Alone in the Jungle, so that's the solitaire stuff, large map scenarios, unit and card analysis, right? Kickin' Ass unit analysis, Drawn Swords unit analysis, expansion products, and online resources. And it clocks in at a full 83 pages. So I'm going to page through, and I'll try not to take this too long. I just wanted to kind of review this and talk about it, because this is a great tool to put into your toolkit for helping you dominate the battlefield in 65. So we will start looking here. We do have our historical background, talking about kind of the history of the war, and it's, you know, the lead into the war and the war itself. Then you get gameplay descriptions, and it's chock full of graphics, as you can see, to show you what all the various units look like and what everything means. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, I shouldn't say all of it, a lot of this stuff is in the manual, the rule books, etc., but it goes more in depth in here, and you get something on all of the stuff because it's deeper and more, you know, more in depth, which means deeper. I'm repeating myself. It has a lot more information on what everything is and how everything works. So again, all the markers. Then you get your card breakdown here. So it tells you what everything is on the cards. And then it breaks down the card on this page, talking about your different sections and how the cards power the game. There are no dice in this game if you're unfamiliar with 65 and the Squad Level Combat series in general, with, you know, 85 and 95 coming up, as well as the Grenada scenario that is in the most recent issue of YA magazine. Then we get into stacking rules and the movement rules, leg movement, lots of graphically illustrated examples here, right? So you can see you've got your scout action, which is one of the actions on the cards. It'll tell you what that does. Your fast move, same. Then you've got let's get 'em. Hero with the Pathfinder ability. What does that mean? Good example right here. Wheeled and track movement, right? So your vehicles, your tanks, etc. Explained right here. Then, of course, wouldn't be Vietnam without some helicopters. So we get into how flight movements work. They can do things like hovering as well as moving, and what flying mode they're in and all that stuff. Transport, how does transport work, right? Again, with both land transport and helicopter transport. Then your combat. You've got your ranged fire, high explosive, right? So that's you're basically your infantry on infantry or infantry on soft targets, not things like tanks, of course. How all of that works. Line of sight. Line of sight, of course, is a key component of every tactical game. So you have to have a good idea on how to work that out. That is covered here. You can see all of the different types of terrain that will degrade your line of sight, as well as your blocking right up top. And then, of course, your clear terrain that does not have an impact on your line of sight. That is good stuff. And then, of course, you get examples of how that plays out. This guy obviously can't see either of these because he has jungle blocking the way, but this one has an open line directly to that unit right there. Same over here, but this is for HE fire resolution. So you can see kind of how everything works out. We have a wreck here. Then you have desperation fire. How does that work, right? There's a lot of nuances to this game. Multi-unit fire, op fire, another key component of tactical gameplay. With examples, you've got punishing fire. Then you have ranged fire against hard targets, right? So when you need to knock out a tank or shoot down a helicopter or something along those lines, how does that work? This will give you the skinny on doing that, right? Again, with line of sight and who can attack where, right? This unit can obviously fire on the helicopter who is hovering, right? And again, lots of examples. This is a flying example here. Then you've got artillery. How does that work? Your assault combat, which of course is another very important key component of the tactical toolkit at this level, squad level, right? It's pretty granular, so assault is a big piece of that. Then you have rallying, right? You take hits to your morale. You get you get yourself into a little bit of trouble, and this is how you kind of snap your men out of it. Then you have things like bloodlust, and how do you put units back together? You can combine if you have an eligible reduced to unshaken unit, not in line of sight of an enemy unit, you can use a rally or bloodlust action card to reconstitute it to full strength. Then we get into the sequence of play. So this is kind of the meat of the game, of course, and each phase is explained in better detail than what you're going to get just out of the rule book. So it goes through the dealing of the card deck. That's the first thing you're going to do. Then you have your initiative. How do you determine initiative? Basically, it's a bid system where you use your cards to bid on getting initiative. Then you have your impulse actions that you go through by playing cards, moving your units, performing fire actions, and so on. Then you get to the reserve phase, where you basically clean up. Well, shouldn't say that. Reserve phase is a little bit more detailed than that because you do have a cleanup phase. So you can move anybody that has not moved or fired or is marked ops complete. So these are units that didn't perform any actions or through card play ended the impulse with a fired or moved marker removed. So anybody who didn't do something in game terms, you can move them around a little bit. There are restrictions on that, such as not being able to move close to an enemy unit and things of that nature. Then cleanup phase, which I kind of got to a little early there. And then you get a playthrough of scenario 4. So here you see the map for it. And this uses board 2. US wins by clearing board 2 of all NVA units, right? Among other things. That was a brief brief little snippet of the actual rules there for victory. Your NVA setup, your US setup. So this is where you set up all your men. Then they're going to show you hands that both sides have instead of you trying to draw them, right? Because this is an example of play. This is an excellent example of play. You read through this, you'll have a very good idea of how to play the game. More so than you would get just from reading the rules. That's the idea here, is that you get deeper information and more comprehensive information on how the game works. Then you get into the NVA impulse and the US impulse, back to the NVA, right? It goes back and forth. So each step is shown and what units can see each other or move. They move to certain places or whatever. It's all shown here, documented, so you can see the move markers on them after they have moved. Right, so again, all examples here, and this continues for good 10 more pages, so you get the idea, right? You're going to see what cards, right? Drawn and drawn, and this is the one that was played. Then you have a drawn and a played, drawn and a played, drawn, discarded, because it's an end turn, and then drawn and played. And it just continues in that vein. You get a nice big state of the board here at the end of turn 1. So this is what the board looks like. And then you get into turn 2 on this page. This is the end of turn 1. Turn 2 here, again, it shows you the hands and the initiative play. So the U.S. gets initiative because the U.S. player's card had a higher value. Then you, again, just get into the description of everything that happened, and you get some combat in here. You can see the fired markers, some ops complete, etc. And that ends it here on page 41 is the last page. Then you get into strategies, and, well, basically strategies, but some information on how the various scenarios work. So you got scenario 1, village assault. This is the very first scenario from the base game, and you get information for both sides. So both players can utilize this to get a good idea of how things work. You get a shot of the map with unit positions or controlled areas, like on this one, right? So you've got scenario 1 and 2, and then 3, all on this first 2-page spread here. And you get 4 for tanks in the wire, 5 is horror on Highway 1, 6 is death from above, and again, you see all the maps, and you get strategies for the Americans and the NVA or the Viet Cong, depending on the scenario. Scenario 7 and 8, the Lost Company. I'm pretty sure I played 8 for video, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. Scenario 9, an ambush, ambushed. Then you get into drawn swords here. So this is one of the expansions for it, and you get hell in the beginning. This one, this is an ARVN, or South Vietnamese Army, taking on the Viet Cong. Scenario 2, fall of A Shao. Again, drawn swords introduce ARVN and NVA units, additional ones, into the game. That was one of the things that was a big part of this particular expansion. So a lot of these are ARVNs versus either the NVA or the Viet Cong. So you can see tanks for the memories, and Miss Saigon here, and then into the Citadel are the last 2. Then you have the U.S. Marine Corps and ANZAC strategy guide. This is a fun expansion. I have this. I kind of put everything in the base box, but you know, having the Aussies and the New Zealanders, and of course the U.S. Marine Corps is pretty interesting, and the map for Hue, also very cool. So again, this is going to be Viet Cong and the Australians in the first scenario, Bin Ba. Then Long Tan, August of '66. This is again the Australians against the Viet Cong and the NVA. Then Phuoc Toi, you get the New Zealanders and the VC. Then tanks, Mr. Rock, lots of them. Anywhere, South Vietnam, summer 1968. So these are the Marines now. So you've got the Viet Cong with a long description here, and then NVA, and then the Marines with a pretty long description as well. And you can see that's kind of a long map setup. Dai Do, Din To, and this again is NVA and Marines. Scenario 6, from summer of '68, Marines and VC. Then you get Kickin' Ass, which was another expansion from the most recent Kickstarter. This one is First Blood. Deceptively simple scenario that would be turned on its head by random events. So this is Americans and Viet Cong. Then you've got Hell by Evening, Americans and the NVA, Fish in a Barrel. Here They Come, Kings of the Hill, Koalas Forward. Of course, as you might expect, that indicates the Australians are in this one. The Hill, which is again the Aussies and the VC. The Die Hard, again, Aussies and VC. And then you get to the Alone in the Jungle, which is the solo module for the game. Rescuing Rambo, I played this one. I remember playing this one. It's only got one description or for strategy here because it is a solitaire scenario, and you play as the Americans against the NVA. Then you've got A Deadly Encounter, same stuff, different day. Death from Above, Hearts and Minds, and With the Patrol. And then you get into long or the large map scenarios. The Quang Tri scenario uses the larger urban map and highlights the excitement of challenges of fighting in built-up areas, FIBUA, right? During the Vietnam War, lots of close assaults and resulting heavy casualties on both sides of the order are the order of the day. I did play on the urban map, as I mentioned earlier, and it is a lot of fun. You do have the Battle of Quang Tri here. There's some variations you can employ as well, special rules for it. That's a look at the map. And then you've got the card analysis in here. So it tells you kind of what each unit can do, right? So just for example, you've got your machine gun units here, right? One for each of the, well, not each of the factions, but generally speaking, these are the same, right? So you got your M60 here, which is, of course, the Americans. No AP fire, right? Machine guns can't dent a tank. Then you've got the 2 HE factors and 2 leg movement points. Its ability is spraying fire, and it tells you what that can do. No powers, and then you get some comments. And that's the case for all of the various units. So you've got your AP units here. Here are some special units. Sappers for both sides. That is, something that was heavily employed by the communist forces. But then you have your AP stuff here. So again, pretty straightforward, right? Your heroes and leaders. This is a good one to have because heroes generally have abilities, and you get the full description of specifically what that is without having to go to the rule book to look it up. And since you have both expansions and base game, this is a good kind of one place you can look instead of, like I said, having to go through the rules for either or both of the expansions. Some good stuff here. Then vehicles, air units. Then you get the card action support reaction analysis. And then you get, okay, here are the units for the, but again, they're in the same book. This is the kicking ass units, which are, looks like Marines, right? And then Marine heroes, Marine vehicle and air units. Then you got your Anzac heroes, Anzac vehicles, drawn swords, etc., etc. Then your drawn swords, action reaction cards. So these are different. You can see. Well, you may not be familiar with the base game, but these cards are different. Bangalore, Kovan Mai, etc. These are different than what's in the base game. Okay, and then support, and then at the very back here, you've got the expansion products of the, or projects, the U.S. Marine Corps Anzac, and the Way City map. I do have these, and I have that as well. Then you have your online resources, Flying Pig Games, of course, their website, the BGG homepage for the game, Consim World Forum for the game, and the Vassal module and Tabletop Simulator, where you can get that. And then these are the products that are related. So here is Urgent Fury. That is the Panama scenario I was talking about. It is a kind of a starter kit, as it says right there, for squad battles. Great introductory scenario for you to play. It's very simple. There's no vehicles in it, so it's really easy to play, and it gives you a really good introduction to how squad battles work. The system is not overly complicated, and it is a lot of fun. Then we have 85, which is the second game in the series. Of course, Knight of Man uses a square grid battlefield as opposed to hexes, so that's the main difference. But this was the earliest game that really kind of spawned 65 and then 85 and Urgent Fury, and then the upcoming 95, The Years of Sorrow, which will put you into the fighting in Bosnia, Chechnya, Panama, Kosovo, and West Berlin. So probably some alt history stuff in there with the historical stuff. That is a look at the 65 squad level combat in the jungles of Vietnam, second edition strategy guide. Of course, I didn't mention his name, but this is a Mark H. Walker design. He is, he's no longer the head of Flying Pig Games. He has passed that on to his daughter, Denver, but he is the man who started it all and does does some damn good design work in addition to everything else he does for Flying Pig Games. So that is going to do it for this one. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, but I'm done for now. I do want to give a shout out to my channel members. I appreciate the support from them. It is greatly appreciated. For everyone else, thank you again for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please post them in the comment section. I always do my best to get back to everyone who posts as soon as possible. That is something that I really try to make sure I get done. And also, while you're here, if you'd consider liking, sharing, perhaps hyping the video, which is a relatively new thing, and or becoming a subscriber if you are not already a subscriber. And if you want to get those notifications about new videos here on the Hexed Encounter channel, you can click the bell. That will get that accomplished for you. But yeah, we're done. Until next time, I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.